you well, guys. Can you hear me good?
Oh yeah, that's good. I like that.
Yeah, perfect.
We can definitely work with that. Gary, I'm gonna introduce the show, but I'm gonna let you take over after that. Artem is your friend.
All right.
So because only
Gary doesn't have friends.
other than that, no, he doesn't.
Yeah, it's true. You're gonna see how this is gonna go with the banter.
This is my world, man. It's like being in the military again. Hang on. Welcome to the Tragedy Academy, a show created to bridge societal divides in a judgment-free zone using candor and humor. I am joined today by my not friend, Gary. How you doing today, brother?
I'm great. Great intro.
And we're also, you want to introduce our guest today?
Yes, this is Artem Lobov, MMA fighter, entrepreneur, bare-knuckle fighter, world traveler. I could list 30 other things, but welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks very much, Gary. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being here. I know, where are you, in Ireland right now?
Yes, in Dublin, Ireland.
Oh, excellent. I know you have a ton going on. There's a lot, in the past to talk about, but just a quick background. I produce a show called The Ultimate Fighter for the UFC. Artem was one of the fighters that competed on season 21 of the show, which was Conor McGregor and Uriah Faber as the coach. He's been fighting MMA, bare knuckle, and any kind of, combat sport there is before and after that. So knowledge of all of those things is grand. I think people always ask me about bare knuckle. So, and like that compared to MMA, safety, excitement, all those things. So I don't want to talk a ton about it, like the comparison, but rarely do we get to talk to someone that's done both. So kind of, what do you like more? What are the pros and cons of each? Anything like that you want to touch on?
Yeah, I think educating people on the differences between the two is very important because there's a lot of misunderstanding for the brutality for each one of them, respectively.
Absolutely. To be honest with you, I like both, for different reasons. For MMA, for example, the reason I love MMA is because it is the most complete martial art. MMA fighter, he can hang with anyone. Even nowadays when people talk about cross fights, cross promotion fight, it's the MMA guy that has to go, right, which rules are we doing? With kickboxing, all right. We're grappling, let's go. Wrestling, okay. Boxing, let's do it. A boxer couldn't do that. K1 guy couldn't do that. Nobody else could ever do that. Only an MMA guy, MMA fighter is in a position to say that and to be able to cross, fight in any discipline. So for that reason, to me, that I love, martial arts. It's the most complete, martial art. For bare knuckle, for example, I love it for its excitement, for the element of how exciting it is, how brutal it is. There is never a boring fight. It's easy to explain. For example, if you're watching like an MMA fight, and somebody, your friend that's never seen MMA before, you have to really pick a certain fighter, to show them so that they would like the sport. Let's say you show them Ben Askren fight. The guy your friend is falling asleep in 2 minutes and he's never going to watch MMA again. It's boring as fuck. So you need to really be selective. It's Anderson Silva, Conor McGregor. In bare knuckle, it's not the case. I could stick 80 fight on and it's going to be exciting. It's very easy for people to understand. We understand easy when two guys are punching each other in the face and there's blood everywhere, that this is what we love.
It's primal.
It's primal, exactly. And it's, people say, oh, it's too violent as this. But the reality of life is that fighting is the only sport that's actually in our DNA. Every other sport was created for whatever reason, but fighting is in our blood. If you're walking through a park and you see people play football, you see people play basketball, and then the fight breaks out, what is everyone going to watch? Everyone is going to watch a fight, but back in the day, people quickly realized that not everybody wanted to fight. Not everybody wanted to be, broken and battered and cut up, and they realized that recovery is very long. And, some people had fear and all. So they said, okay, let's come up with something else. Let's see who can throw this ball the farthest. Let's see who can let's 11 of us chase after the same ball or whatever. 22 of us chase after the same ball, and that's why those sports were created. I'm not saying that, they're not good or whatever, very interesting. I love many sports myself watching, but the true sport where all this competition began and started is fighting. That's where all the competition starts.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we had coliseums dedicated to it.
So that's why I love fighting.
Two men or two women at the peak of their physical prowess, or their their careers, having the opportunity to test themselves to that degree, it's artistic. Gary brought this up to me before because a lot of people misunderstand what fighting is, and I myself a bit as well. Not from being ignorant to what it actually is, but the background of the artistic piece of it, the way that things are meshed together between, like you were explaining in MMA, you have multiple disciplines, but those multiple disciplines are also, they're rooted in religions. They're rooted in, ways of life and mindfulness and meditation and all these different things. And when you get two people that have taken all that time into the ring together, you're really getting a chance to see something that it can't be compared to anything else.
Right. And there's a bond when two people fight each other. A lot of times leading up to the fight, they got all kind of beef and everything, and they'll hug it out and become friends after because they know what went in there. They know the pain of the win, the loss, the training, and you never know anybody more than sticking them in a cage with the other man and seeing who breaks first. And no matter how much you hate them, you'll respect them afterwards. I firmly believe that.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you need your opponent, but at the end of the day, no matter what happens, when you go home, his and your family are fed, you're helping each other provide for your loved ones, so how can you have hate for a guy like that, after it's all said and done?
You guys have the same destination of mind, greatness and support for your friends and family.
That's right.
Yeah. And the brutality you spoke of, I debate this quite often with people usually that don't know, but they'll see somebody very bloody after a bare-knuckle fight, but it's not as bad. Lengthwise, a 12-round boxing fight where your brain's getting scrambled is much worse than a few cuts on the forehead in over 4 rounds. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And the big thing here is, number one, fighting time. In bare-knuckle, you only have 5 2-minute rounds. In boxing, you're fighting for 36 minutes straight. MMA 25 minutes. If it's a title fight. So that, of course, is your brain is going to be better off if it's only getting punched for 10 minutes instead of 36 minutes or instead of 25 minutes, on top of that, a lot of people say, oh, bare knuckle, it's so painful. Yeah. What about the bare shin to the head? What about the bare elbow to the head? What about the bare knee to your head? What about when the guy is sitting on top of you and you're lying on the floor, he's in mount, and he's punching you in the face and there's nowhere for your head to go. So he's literally nailing your head into the canvas. You want to tell me that that's good? I mean, that's just the reality of fighting. It's brain is not there, is not designed to be punched. But that's just what we're doing.
No, it's actually sitting in a bag of water.
Yeah, it's actually kind of is.
It's sitting in a bag of water, getting slapped against the sides.
Exactly, and that's another thing. Yeah, and that's another reason why a fighting time is so crucial. Because when you fight, the longer you fight, the more dehydrated you become, and the little protection that your brain has goes away.
Holy
the
shit.
more dehydrated you become. So when it's round, 12, round 10, 11, 12 in boxing, you've been fighting, for half an hour, you're so dehydrated that there is almost no protection for your brain, so that's a very big factor also.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal.
Absolutely.
Especially if you cut a lot of weight.
That's why weight cutting is another issue as well. That's to do with that.
Yeah. That's brutal. Weight cutting is brutal.
It's the worst part, I think. I've seen more bad injuries or death in weight cutting than in the actual fights, I think, throughout the years.
Yeah, especially I'd say in the Ultimate Fighter, because Ultimate Fighter, these guys are, they come from all sorts of places. Many of them have never even heard of proper weight cutting, never heard of proper diet or anything, so I'd say you got to see some crazy stuff on the Ultimate Fighter. I can't remember what the season it was, but I remember one guy was weight cutting, and they go into the shower. He went into the shower to freshen up, and come on, you have to come out and make the weight. He says, no, I can't. I've been drinking shower water.
God, that's disgusting.
So while he was showering, he was drinking water,
It's tough. I mean,
desperation.
It's
yeah.
The guy's cutting 23 pounds in a day, and it's we have medical people on staff on the Ultimate Fighter, and it's always how, because a fighter's 99% of fighters are gonna cut till they pass out in this world. Some will quit, but
because there's shame involved in not making weight.
Yeah,
you don't want to not make weight. I mean, that's even for like high school wrestling is where that starts getting put into your mind. You don't not make weight because that looks like it's almost like you didn't show up for the fight or that you're not good enough.
You know, it's a weird when you say shame, but I'm telling you, when you're in that state and you feel like you're dying, you suddenly don't feel no shame. You know, I've seen people, they don't care, take all my money, whatever, just let me stop cutting weight. You know, I've seen coaches having to barricade the door into the fucking sauna, you know, not allowing the guy to come out, you know, just
Holy shit.
forcing him to clean.
But yeah, it's like that coach. That's the coach has
Yeah.
to know what that fighter needs, because a lot of times that fighter will be so mad if the coach doesn't do that. They let him quit, and you know, once they're back about their faculties, they'll be super mad that
Yeah.
they didn't force him to stay. You know, it's a crazy world we live in. I mean, it's I could tell stories forever.
Wow. To have somebody else monitoring your limitations and telling you that you have more in a situation like that requires a lot of trust.
The only thing that's monitoring me in that situation is the fucking scale. Until I see what I want to see on that scale, I ain't coming out and I'm not stopping the weight cut.
That's why people love you.
I mean, I think I was going to bring that up, you know, like just
Wow.
toughness, you know, it's a tough man sport. And, you know, at one point, I think when you came on the Ultimate Fighter, your record was close to even, and people, you know, questioned that. And after watching you fight one or two times, they realized that
Yeah,
it was because you
love
took the tough fights. You didn't pad your shit at any time. You took the toughest fight available to you your whole career. And in boxing, they wouldn't even have you around after 2, 3, 4 losses, but they'd let some cupcake just keep fighting pop cans and like build his record up. But I've never heard of this guy turning down a fight. You know, he would fought for the championship, his first fight in the UFC, if they would have let him. You know, he'd fight twice in a row, you know, and it's just people respect that more in the MMA. Like boxing, you get a loss and they
100%.
hate you, and like you're done. MMA, we don't really care that much like about that, if you're ready to go to war.
Always an underdog story.
Yeah, but you know what, Gary, if you remember, I remember it was Kamzat, when Kamzat, you know, started fighting in the UFC, and he had like a lot of fights very close by, and people going, oh my God, that's so impressive. Well, have they forgotten about the Ultimate Fighter? I fought 4 times in 6 weeks. You know what I mean? Winning 3 of those by knockouts. My last fight, I had 20 stitches in my face. And I asked the doctor, I said, look, should I take them out before the fight? And he looked at me and said, I don't know, leave them in. It's you know, it's going to hold it together better.
Amazing.
So, you know what I mean? It's, look, of course, it's very impressive what Kyle, he's looked incredible in the fights, but, you know, don't forget about the Ultimate Fighter guys. You know, they're fighting a lot more often and a lot closer together.
So I have a question. You bring up the cuts and the bleeding and that type of situation. For most people, the sight of blood or being in a scenario where they've been struck and they are bleeding, there's a fight or flight scenario, or they panic, or they can't keep their wits about them. How does a fighter remain mindful, not knowing the degree with which they've been cut in the middle of a round, and continue to fight forward? What is that like mentally?
Well, to be honest with you, I never really, like, if you get cut or you just kind of, okay, I'm cut or whatever, it's blood coming, you don't really worry about it too much. I mean, you've got plenty more to worry about in there. You know, there's still punches coming at you, you know, with the other guy, especially when the other guy sees blood. Now he's going to, you know, aim even more for this side potentially, you know, and so it's kind of just one of those things, you know, you bleed all the time. So it's no biggie to you, you know, whatever, you know, you got cut, so what? For me, like, for example, I get cut really easy.
Yeah, I
you know?
think you could see it, you know, afterwards is a lot different.
Yeah. Well, that afterwards, yeah, it's different, and especially bare-knuckle.
What causes that? Why are some people more susceptible?
Yeah, you know, I don't really know. Some people say, like, I guess it's just skin type or whatever. I always cut really easily, you know, and people always say, oh no, the scar tissue is gonna, you know, it's gonna cut worse. I'm like, well, hold on a second. For it to be a scar tissue there, that means that you must have gotten cut anyway without a scar tissue. You get cut regardless, you know. So what's the difference? You know, I never really worried about the scar tissue. But talking about scar tissue, after my first bare knuckle fight, I got 40 stitches in my face. You know, after 10 minutes of fighting, you know, all thanks to Jason Knight.
Yeah, those pictures made it all over the world. I mean, those were gruesome. I mean, his face looked worse than yours, and that's where bare knuckle looks worse. But you, even to this day, you'd probably rather do that than go 12 rounds with him with 10-ounce gloves and just scramble each other's brains. It's, you know, especially when you're older, and you know, it's
How long is that headache?
which one, the bare knuckle one?
Nobody ever mentions that. Like the 12 rounds of a 10-ounce glove to the head over and over again. How long do you have a headache after that? Because you said the recovery time. Can't imagine.
But that's bad. But you know what's worse? Worse is the camp leading up to that fight. So for you to get ready for those 12 rounds, how many 12 spars have you done leading up to that? You know what I mean? That's hundreds of rounds. hundreds and hundreds of rounds, and also in the sparring, sometimes you'll have fresh guy come in. So you do, let's say, 4 rounds, fresh guy comes in, another 4 rounds, another fresh guy. So, you know what I mean? You're constantly fighting this, fresh guys, constantly getting, brain damage. And yeah, the results are, devastating. 20% of boxers retire with permanent brain damage, and the longer you spend in the sport, the bigger your chances of ending up amongst those numbers. So that was one of the big reasons for my retirement.
Yeah, you left early.
Yeah. Well, to me, I was my last fight was against Olympic silver medalist, undefeated boxer, Dennis Berinchuk. And obviously, have I won that fight, my plans were very big. I was aiming to go into boxing. My sort of selling pitch would have been, look, I've defeated Paulie Malignaggi, 2-time world boxing champion. I defeated an Olympic silver medalist. Well, let me, and I'm doing it without the gloves on. So let me do it with pills on my hands. Let me see how I match up against these boxers. But of course, I lost the fight. So that didn't happen. I could have gone back and tried to start everything again, build it up again, take some fights. I probably would have had to take a bit of a pay cut as well. And I was like, no, the risks are way too high for me to mess around with that. I'm a father now. I want to be a good father. I want to be a capable father. I want to be a good grandfather one day. So I said, look, I better cut my losses short here, quit and concentrate, put my effort into something else.
Let's talk about that. Something else. Before we came on, you were discussing this passion about whiskey, and you were authoring an upcoming book. You want to tell us about that?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm currently, as I mentioned, doing a book about my life. The reason I decided to do the book now, I kind of felt like now that I've finished my career, I'm slowly people are forgetting me slowly, and I enjoy it as well. I'm starting to live just a normal family, quiet, peaceful life. But obviously, when I do the book, I expect there to be another kind of splash, media splash, and the attention, and all this. So I want to kind of do it now at the end of the career, one last big splash, and then I'll sail off into obscurity, into quietness, into silence, and just enjoy my life and rear my kids. And yeah, as you mentioned, I've had crazy life story, because when you live through this moment yourself, you don't really realize how maybe weird or special or unique or interesting they are to other people, because you just live through them, so it feels normal. But now that I kind of sat down and I'm talking to my ghostwriter, Pizzi Carroll, I'm telling him all the stories, like, holy shit, Artem, he said, I've read so many books and I've never heard, crazy stories like that. He's like, your life story is like Forrest Gump, where you have all these different, stories that are connected, some are not connected, and they're absolutely crazy. So I would like to share some of the stories with you, some of the kind of, I guess, interesting stories. Although all of them are very interesting, but I had to pick some. And one interesting one that not many people know, in fact, very, very few people know. Obviously, everybody knows Connor's whiskey, Proper 12, but very few people know that it was actually my idea to do a whiskey, and this was my deal that I worked on for a long time, and it was myself who put that deal together. And the way that happened was, when I was studying in college, when I was doing my bachelor's degree in business, in my last year, we'd done a big presentation on Cooley Whiskey Distillery. It's an Irish whiskey distillery. And so when I was doing that, I did a lot of research about Irish whiskey, and about the history and where it was now. And I saw a massive potential there, because Irish whiskey used to dominate the whiskey world. There was hundreds of distilleries in Ireland. But because of the negative influence that England always had on Ireland, and the fact that they controlled all the trading routes, and they from, let's say, 400 down to just 2. They basically nearly annihilated the Irish whiskey trade altogether. But then from the 90s, Irish whiskey started making a comeback. And for the last 30 years, Irish whiskey has been growing consistently between 10 and 15% every year. And as I mentioned, there's not really much competition among Irish whiskey. There was very, very few distilleries. And the main ones, actually, Jameson, they had the majority share. And it wasn't for the fact that they were such good quality. It was just that there's no one else there, And to me, straight away, when I knew that, I realized, okay, Connor, what a better man than Connor to lead. He already made the Fighting Irish, brought the Fighting Irish back, and I thought, okay, the whiskey would be perfect. On top of that, Connor's fight name is the Notorious, and Irish whiskey historically has been very, very notorious because during the Prohibition era, the Irish would buy weapons from US with whiskey. They would send Irish whiskey to US, and US would send weapons back to Ireland so that the Irish could fight the English. So I was like, wow, this is just perfect. So after DS2 fight, we were in the gym, and Connor comes over to me and he says, Artem, I was talking to Thor, the mountain from Game of Thrones, the Icelandic guy. And he offered me to do my own vodka. He says he's doing a vodka in Iceland, and he says to me that it's a good deal, and he offered it to me to do one as well. What do you think about that? So I says, Connor, what? Hold on a second. Vodka in Iceland. I mean, can you tell me one good Icelandic vodka? Number one. And number two, Iceland is a very expensive country. The cost of producing that vodka are going to be through the roof, And fair enough if you have to do that when the quality is also there. But, there's no really any famous Icelandic vodka. We would do vodka at one stage because vodka is the best-selling spirit in the world. We are going to do it. I would look for you for a deal in Russia. But I said to him, before we go anywhere near vodka, let me tell you something about Irish whiskey. And I tell him the history and all the stuff that I just mentioned to you. And he says to me, okay, Artem, well, then go ahead and see what you can get, see what you can, find. And so I went off on my way, and lucky for me as well, when I was in college, I was working in a five-star hotel bar, the Radisson Hotel. And I had a friend there, his name was Ivan King, still is, and we were bartenders. We were just 18 years old. But then when I left the bar, and obviously started fighting, but he continued his hospitality journey and became a general manager in the hotel. So he had all the connections as well in that industry. And he put me in touch with the guy called Niall Condon of Classic Drinks. This guy had his own distribution company in Ireland. So he had contacts with all the whiskey distilleries and knew everything about Irish whiskies. So me and him met in the Radisson. We sat down. He was very, very generous with his time and information. And we kind of spoke about all the different whiskey distilleries and what they represent, the quality of their whiskey. And he helped me pick, the best whiskey that would be suitable for the deal, for our deal. So I started meeting all the different whiskey distilleries. I went and spoke with all of them and, saw what can be got there. And I then narrowed it down to just one, put the deal together. I met them. I put the deal together, and once I had the deal ready, I contacted Connor and said, okay, Connor, I have something very, very special here. This is going to be a multi-billion-dollar deal. This is no joke. Because I had seen a similar deals done for vodka, for example, and they were all in the billions, 500 million, a billion. But vodka, it's everywhere, and vodka can be made in any country in the world. Irish whiskey can only be made in Ireland, which is a tiny place, only has very few distillers, but the whole world wants it. So I was saying all this to Connor. He said, right, this is perfect. He then told me to contact his team, at Paradigm and Audi, and share all my information with them, which I did. And we got working then and, worked out the details of the deal. And you've seen it yourself, how successful it was,
That's an amazing story. And I want to kind of ask a question on piggybacking that. You've been in Ireland for forever, and it sounds like you're getting the opportunity to give Ireland something back. And I hear the passion in your voice when you describe that this comes from Ireland, this belongs to Ireland, this was Ireland's to begin with. Is that part of what this was to you? Was it a chance to give Ireland something they deserved?
Absolutely. To me, Ireland, I came here, 15, 16-year-old, teenager. And I've seen nothing but respect and love and welcome, from the Irish people. When I was knocking on doors of different businesses looking for a job, British said, all right, you want a job, kid, come in here. And when I did do my job, they never fucked me over or nothing like that. You done your job good. Here's your cash, they paid me the same as everybody else. They never tried to, fuck me over or nothing like that. They always treated me with respect and love, and now after so many years here, I proudly call Ireland my home. And if something is important to the people of Ireland, then it is important to me. So I definitely wanted to play a part in this whiskey story. And not only that, I will tell you more. It was so important to me and so big for me that I didn't even take any money for this deal. Even though it was my deal, Conor offered me $1 million, and I turned it down. There's more to the story. I don't want to share all the information here because I've got a book to release and I still wanted to do well. But I turned down $1 million when it was put right in front of me. So, but it's a very, very special deal for me.
The passion says it all.
I would have to say, I've interviewed Artem a lot of times, and he's one of those guys where I have 12 questions and then he just answers them all before I even have to ask them, which is, it's like, I mean, probably interviewed you 100 times before an Ultimate Fighter and everything, but just to give it some context for people that don't know, why you're speaking of Conor so much, you guys have been longtime friends, training partners. He helped you get ready for all your fights. You helped him get ready for all his fights. So you have plenty of crazy stories of your own. You add on the crazy stories involving Conor. Obviously, that's going to be a great book. I hope you send me a copy immediately and I can buy that because I will read it even though I've seen most of them.
Oh, yeah, I want one too.
Yeah,
definitely want one.
And as far as Ireland goes, when I met you and called you Russian, like right off the bat, you corrected me. I'm from Ireland, and then you explained your story to me, and how you got there and what you wanted to represent both of them equally. So exactly. I've always respected that.
Absolutely, guy. Born in Russia, forged in Ireland. As you say, I've always carried both flags with me. I always, raise both flags at the same time. Obviously Russia, this is my home. That's where I was born, and I'm always, proud of that. But, Ireland has become my new home now as well. My sister was born in Ireland. My son was born in Ireland. I've been here so many years, like I said, I proudly call Ireland my home, and I love both nations. This is, I can't pick between one or the other. That's me, and that's it. It's like my mom and dad.
You shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to. And one of the things I want to point out is that when someone has such a passion for a place that they're expressing gratitude. And what I hear is that you were grateful for the people that you were surrounded with in the moment, not after the fact. You're not doing the book because of that. You recognize it then and you want to give it back to them later. And I think that that's super awesome. I just want to commend you for it because a lot of people don't recognize that they're in a good situation when they're there. They're too preoccupied with everything else that's going wrong and not recognizing that people are there supporting you.
Yeah. Even when we were on the show and you guys would complain every day, I wanted a filet and I only got a T-bone and I want, he would just shake his head and be like, what the fuck? Like you write something on a list, it comes 12 hours later. Like, why are these guys complaining? And then it's usually the guys that have a lot of success aren't the complainers. They're the ones that get to work and they're not complaining about getting gummy bears instead of gummy worms. They're getting ready to go to the gym,
But honestly, there was nothing to complain about. I won't live in that house. I literally was like, guys, is there any way I can just live here? Can I just stay for another few seasons? I mean, what's not to fucking like?
Right.
You live in a beautiful mansion, that has everything. You're driven to training and train, eat, sleep, and fight. Fucking hell, like what? The only thing that was missing there was the women. That's honestly, that's the only thing that's kind of, a bit hard, but everything else, Jesus, paradise. Like, let me fucking live in that house forever.
That means that they're not there for the same reason. The person that it recognizes the fact that it is a place that they can exercise all of their freedoms with the sport that they love the most in an environment where they don't have any other responsibility, they're grateful for it. Somebody that is not doing it for that reason, they're being inauthentic. They found that fighting is something that they're kind of good at, or they might be good at. So they're there. They're not fully focused like someone like yourself. They're fully focused on what else they're going to get with it. What is going to give them that last piece of high that fighting isn't giving them, that is giving you?
I think you could always tell.
Yeah, and especially nowadays that it's become so big, like people want to do it for the money or whatever. They think, oh my God, look at all the money that's coming, and that's if that's your motivation, just money to do fighting, you ain't gonna make it. You're not gonna succeed. It's a crazy sport that you have to love. You have to, like, for me, I couldn't think of nothing else. I'd be working in the bank, I remember, and I'd be sitting in the bank dreaming of all my fights, how I would be in the cage again. I can't wait to be in that octagon, throwing shots and just, thinking about all the different sequences, and everything that I've done in sparring and training and different fights. I just literally, like, I couldn't think of nothing else. When the moment came, for example, when Conor asked me to come over to Vegas for the first time, we were going to Vegas for the first time to help him prepare for the Poirier fight, I quit my job, in the bank. I was like, it was a no-brainer to me. And it was actually funny because I went to tell my manager that I'm going to quit because I had used up all my holidays already. So I was like, okay, well, I don't have any more holidays, so I have to quit. So I came up, I met with him, and I said, look, I'm going to quit. I have a massive opportunity. I can't turn it down. This is my friend, so I have to go and help him. So the manager goes, oh, no, look, you don't have to quit. Just, take time off and paid leave or whatever. But when you come back, the job is here. You're a good worker. We want you back. And I just thought about it for a second. I was like, if I don't quit, I'll never commit to it 100%. I said, no, fuck this. I quit.
That's perfect.
And that was it. And I didn't look back. Not only that, when I quit my job, because Ireland is a very developed country, their social welfare system is very good here, But when I quit my job and I had no income coming in, I on purpose didn't sign up for social welfare. I wanted to burn all my ships. I didn't want it to be some safety cushion or nothing for me. I was like, no, fuck it. Make it or break it, make it or die trying. That was my mentality. So I just went for it.
That's how you fight.
Fuck yeah. It's not comparable, but I get exactly what you mean, because when you're really passionate about something, a safety net is no more. It's just an excuse to not put everything into it. And for me, podcasting was kind of that thing where we took a small break when we were revamping the brand and putting everything together. And during that 4 months, my entire mind was still at podcasting. It was living there. It was dreaming about it. It was thinking about, when am I going to be back behind the mic? When do I get to talk to amazing people like you? All of that type of thing. And I like to point out at moments throughout the show where people can take advice from a particular scenario. And I feel like we need to embrace the place that our mind keeps going when we're doing the monotonous and mundane. The destination that you're supposed to get to is the one that you're thinking about all the time while you're doing the endless mountain of cyclical bullshit.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you got to go
You don't regret that.
Yep.
And you're doing it again with your authorship.
I think I was going to ask you what else you got going on, because I know you have he's the kind of guy that's always thinking ahead but living in the moment, which is kind of like how I want to live my life. I want to enjoy today but not stick myself in a spot. So I know you have plans, 2, 3, and 4 moving forward. Is there anything else that you want to talk about that is popping up, or anything that you got going?
Yeah, I'm at the moment as well actually working on apparel brand. It's called Max Life. So almost like Mac Life, except Max Life. It's kind of a brand and the name as well comes with Max Life, getting the max out of your life. It's kind of clothing that you can. It's called athleisure. Athletic and leisure. It's kind of the clothing that you can show up to some business meeting in, quick, or go for a coffee with your family, then jump in the car, go to the gym. It's kind of sporty, but you don't look like you turned up to a Manchester United training or something like that. It's sporty yet stylish. And that's what I like. I've tried my hand at apparel before, which was called Vesuvius, and that flopped completely. But I learned some very, very valuable lessons. So the first thing I did this time is hire an expert, an expert designer. This guy, we hired Tim Winterbottom, his name is. He's a very, very experienced guy. He's the guy responsible for the success of Gym King. And somehow those guys didn't secure him, and he was available. As soon as I heard that, I was like, right, I want this guy. So we got him on team. We have an investor, that's putting the money behind it. And then obviously myself, that's helping with the marketing and everything else. We've been working on it for a year now, and we're hoping to launch, September, October. And it's going to be good. The samples and everything we're receiving now, it's honestly on point. We left no stone unturned. In fact, I'll tell you more. When the investor approached me, he already had the brand and logo designed, but when he wanted me on board, he showed me he was just starting, showed me all his gear and everything, and I said, look, I don't like this, if you want me on board, I don't like the quality on this. And I brought in my guy Tim, the designer. I showed him that. He said the same thing. Said, Artem, this does look great. I mean, we could potentially sell it. So I said, not a chance. There was
I love that.
There was 100,000 euros worth of merchandise there, and I made the investor throw it all out. I said, we either throw this out and start from scratch the right way, or I'm not getting involved. I said, look, I understand that you might not want to waste the money and you want to continue with it, but I won't be part of it. I want to wear something that I'm proud of, that it feels good for me to wear, and I know that it's going to be a success. So we threw out 100 grand worth of clothing and started from scratch. been going at it for a year, and I cannot wait to launch and show the world what we've been working
I
on.
might need to get some of that stuff.
I love that. I got a garage full of mics for that exact reason. Number one. Number two, what does max life mean to you?
Yeah, max life is getting, the maximum out of your life, clothing that you can wear anywhere, and clothing that will make you look good and not out of place in any situation. You're ready for anything. You're ready to enjoy life to the fullest. Max life. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's my company's called Max Glow, and we have the exact same philosophy. It's the same thing in any situation. I want to get the best out of people that I work with, and as a promotion company,
Yeah.
I want to take somebody's talents and give it them the maximum potential to glow for the whole world, whether they're a fighter or artist or musician. I think like you talk about burning the ships. If you don't do that, you're not going to get the max out of anything. I'm not telling everybody
Absolutely.
that 5 kids to go quit their job right now if they don't have the plan, but if you have a passion and you think it's attainable at all, at some point you got to say fuck it and go, because when you're laying on that deathbed or an old man, you're not going to be like, oh man, I really wish I didn't go for my dreams. You're going to be like, fuck, like I had the chance. I didn't do it. Every time I go for something, if I fail, the next thing pops up, or that gives me one more connection or one more idea. And then that one pops up.
Yep. The fortune favors the authentic and the bold.
Yeah. And you attract what we in the hood, we say you get it how you live it. If you're violent and you're a gangster, you're going to get it like that. If you're a priest or a preacher, you're going to get it like that. If you go for it, you're going to get around other people that go for it. And I think that's why me and Artem have been friends. We probably talked about business and shit like that more than fighting when we were in the house, and since, and just, we're both creative, and, we want to do better for our families. And, I think that's how it is. A lot of people are just cool with where they're at. And then if whatever thing they're doing ends, they got nothing to go for, or they don't believe in themselves and the ability, to do something. I have friends all the time. I want to start this brand. I want to start that. I want to do this. And they just want someone to come and do it for them, really.
It's exactly what it is.
Or not put the work in. And I appreciate the quality, like you could have mass produced bullshit and took that $100,000 at somebody else's money and put it out there. And, 9 out of 10 people would have not done that too. So you found the right partner that was willing to be like, okay, this guy's passionate. He knows what he's talking about. Most people have been like, fuck off. I'm taking this to the next guy down the road. So, I'd say stick with that guy and you guys are going to be successful.
Definitely. That's the plan, Gary. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna give you my address too.
Man, yeah, right. I definitely want some of that gear, man. You had me at any scenario. Like, I am all about elastic now. Like, why the hell do we have anything that requires a belt? Didn't we figure out after quarantine that the world does not need suits anymore?
I'll be honest. I hate wearing suits. I understand that sometimes it's necessity. It's like a wedding or something. But I just, I don't, it's not comfortable, I like to feel good. I like to feel comfortable, and I'd like to be judged by what I've got to say rather than what I've got to wear,
There you go.
But still, that's why I said, look, it is still important to, it's very important to look good. So that's why I said, look, we need to do Max Life, something that allows me to look good, but feel comfortable at the same time so I can get the max out of life.
Well, there you go, man.
Yeah, I agree with all of
excited
that.
about that and the book and everything in between.
Here, will I tell you another story, actually, how I did, I nearly missed the Ultimate Fighter tryouts. So what happened was, as I mentioned to you, I quit my job and I didn't apply for social welfare, so money was really, really tight. And I quit my job. This was like September, and the Ultimate Fighter tryouts were in May. So by then I had like very, very little money left. And I remember they announced the tryouts. They announced my weight class. I was like, lovely. Well, actually one weight class above, but that's how you normally do Ultimate Fighter anyway. So I bought the cheapest tickets I could find. It was fucking Air Canada going fucking 2 hours ways, but it didn't matter. I knew I was going to get there. Next thing these motherfuckers, changed the date. But obviously my ticket is the cheapest one on the market. So it's not refundable. I can't exchange the fucking thing. And I haven't got another cent to my name to buy a new one. So I'm sitting at home holding my head, nearly crying. I messaged my coach, John, I said, fucking hell, what to do? I'm fucked now. I have no money. I can't do it. This was going to be, my chance. And Connor's world tour was coming up. So John goes, well, hold on a second. Let me just quickly Connor. He spoke to Connor and then comes back to me and said, look, don't worry about it. Connor wants you to come on the world tour with him. And he said he'll pay for your flights and hotel when you go for the tryout. So I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I cannot believe this, So then we went on the world tour. Then the
So-
world tour.
It's a good thing they changed that date.
Yeah, yeah. And then I came in and I was doing the tryout, but I was feeling so good because I was one of the few people. I still done the full day of fucking tryout, and it's a long ass day. But I knew obviously that I was going to be in the house. I knew that Connor, had put in a word for me, and I was guaranteed a spot. So it was such an enjoyable experience for me. I was just looking around and enjoying all this and just enjoying the tryouts. Although Gary still gave me a fucking hard time in the interview. I'm trying to big myself up and tell about all this stuff. So I'm telling him, I bet top 10 welterweight in Germany. And even though I'm a featherweight, and Gary goes, and the guys in front of me, they don't know fighting. So they can see their eyes, pop up. They're really impressed. I'm like, yeah, fucking, 15 kilos heavier than me, and I'm still, winning. And Gary goes, Germany, what the fuck is Germany? They don't even have 10 fucking guys in there. How is it top 10 fighter in Germany? That means nothing. And I was like, you motherfucker. Where did they get this guy?
I'm looking, I'm like, oh, I've never heard of him. I don't know any German fighters, but like, hey, it's, you gotta like, that's just how I am. And that, if I met you 5 minutes ago, I know you my whole life, you're a billionaire or you're broke, I'm just going to break your balls. It's just what's going to happen. Like, it's, one thing I will say is,
I prefer that.
he did get, onto the show. Some people are going to say it's because of Connor or whatever. Like, he probably would have been on there. No, yeah, maybe.
In your mind, because he supported you personally, but you definitely got there on your own merit.
Hey, I have no issue with that. To me, they say whatever you got there, but hey, did I deserve to be in there? Well, have a look at the fucking show.
There you go.
I've got 3 knockouts in a row. Only 3 people have ever done that. Myself, Tony Ferguson, and Uriah Hall. And all those guys came from very good teams, like they were like top teams in America. They all had, regional titles. They all had much better record than me. One was 12-1, one was 8-1, one was 14-2, and they all got knocked the fuck out by me, So to me, I've proven my worth, and I've proven that I've deserved to be on that show.
I think I stole this from Michael Bisping, that records are for DJs. Like, I don't care if you're 12-1 and the combined total of the guys you won is 1-30. You never fought anybody that's good. I look at your record or anybody else's, and yeah, of course you had a lot of fights. You didn't fight all the best guys in the world, but you look and, you went and took tough fights, 2 weight classes above, 10 days notice, and in the pressure cooker, which is the Ultimate Fighter, we need people that are going to fight next week. They're going to fight hurt, and they're not going to just tap fuck out of the show when something doesn't go their way. It's a different animal.
Listen, and in terms of records as well, like to me, I was like, look, if let's say we have 2 guys and they fought the same, like if you had another guy that fought the exact same guys as me and he bet them all, I would be the first one to tell you, of course, he deserves to be in the UFC, before me. But I remember whenever people were questioning my record, I said to them, look, mine is the most legit record in MMA. All the guys I fought have been top 5, top 10 guys in their respective countries, They just maybe not known media-wise, but never confuse skill with fame. Those are completely different, things. At one point, nobody knew Conor McGregor, and he was sparking motherfuckers left, right, and center for 400 euros a pop, and I had actually a challenge out before. I said, listen, if you find me a European fighter that has a more legit record than mine, I will be the first one to get him into the UFC. I will be tweeting about him. I will be ready to fight him myself as a UFC fight, whatever. I'll do anything possible to get that guy into the UFC. Now step up. How many guys do you think came forward? 0. Not fucking 1 guy, because they knew the moment they put their name there, I say, okay, let's have a look at your record. What's this? Parrot. Fuck off out of here, pussy.
Yeah, it's And I will say
That's
this.
my new ringtone.
Yeah, I'm going to keep that. He probably could have got away with a lot of shit on the show and asked for preferential treatment. It probably would have happened, but never. Once he got in there, he didn't want anybody to be able to say, well, he got extra this or he got that. It was once, I would have put you on the show. I stand by this no matter what. It's not my decision 100%, but I have a lot of say in it. Because I don't like the padding, and you'll see people, I've put people on the show. The guy that won it last season, it was 2-0 against 2 guys with no wins. And I got mad shit about that. And he made it all the way to the finale. And I'm like, look, I've watched him train. I've watched his amateur fights. Like, I think out of all the people, right now, he has the best chance. I'm wrong about that shit, but Juliana Pena was 3-2, coming off 2 losses when I put her on the show. Shit, Deanna's gonna hate me because this is the girl's shirt, and she had just beat her, and she ended up being an alternate and not making it in. But I just saw something in her, and she got hit by a car and ran over right before a fight, had a broken nose, was all fucked up. She still fought. The next loss, she got armbarred and broke her hand in half.
Beast.
Her arm was in half, out of the socket, hanging, and she was hitting the fucking ref with the other arm for stopping the fight. Like, that's the kind of shit that you don't teach. You could teach an armbar, you could teach a Kimura, you could teach that. You can't teach this guy walking forward for 15 minutes and just not stopping. Like that shit that the skills will come to a certain level if they have the hard work and the toughness and the determination. So I look for that over, there's been all the Sage Northcuts in the world that had all the skills in the world, and talent and now this, but gets cracked in the mouth and everything goes out the window. Like that's
why I asked that question earlier about blood. When some people see blood, they shut down. Even if they're a fighter, because when I've seen fighters that have never seen blood before, the first time they see blood, sometimes that throws you completely through a loop.
Comes with the padding of the record too. Like you don't want to be 20-0 in the big stage and you never really got hit before. You've never been in a
That's
war.
a good point.
These.
Maybe I'm just seeing people with padded records take their first real thump to the grave.
Yeah, I talk about that all the time. Amateurs get losses. If you don't know jiu-jitsu, fight the jiu-jitsu guy. If you're not a boxer, fight the boxer. Like, get that done ahead of time. Get all the looks you can. If you never fought a Thai fighter, when you get in that fucking Thai clinch and you can't move your head and you're getting your fucking brains elbowed out, you don't want that in a title fight. Like, it's
a bad time to get your training.
And that's what he was talking about earlier. It's just there's so many skill sets to know and to learn. Like short guys like me would have a terrible time with the Thai fighter that's long and you can't even get fucking near him. And when you do, they clinch up and you're stuck and bite. I would bite them personally, but you're not really allowed to do that in the UFC.
Oh, there's no rules. If there's no cage, there's no rules. Yeah. I'm gonna own parts of you if I think I'm dying.
Yeah. What's your favorite discipline? Is it just straight up boxing? Like if there was one to choose from?
No, I'll be honest. It depends in which kind of a scenario you're asking me. For like practicing, I love jiu-jitsu. It's honestly one of my favorite ones because it is such a great sport. It makes you think a lot. It in terms of injuries, it is very safe. It is a sport you can practice into your late years. Extremely effective. Great workout for cardio, strength, everything. I absolutely love it. But in terms of watching, when you're watching jiu-jitsu competitions, my God, like fucking hell, especially when they start playing this advantage point. What the fuck is this? Like, how can you go home telling, I won on an advantage point? What's that? What the fuck is that? Oh, I moved a little bit fucking something scarier than the other guy. I don't even know still what the fuck is an advantage point, So I don't like that aspect,
No idea what this is.
I don't like that aspect, but so in terms of like watching, like a bare-knuckle fight is a sure fucking excitement. It's you can get any friends over to watch any card and it's going to be good. Everyone is going to enjoy it and have a good time. And at the end of the day, when you're fighting for money, you have to provide entertainment. You're an entertainer. Like jiu-jitsu tournaments, the guys don't get paid, so fair enough, that's a different thing, but in fighting, it's all about providing entertainment.
People don't realize that sometimes, obviously seeing Conor blaze the path that way, but and I love and respect every fighter, but I get the calls when the Jake Pauls and this of the world, man, you think that's fucked up? He's getting $23 million and I'm getting 8,000. I mean, he's paying himself $23 million. No one's paying him that. It's his company. He promoted it. Like he went out there, did it. He's a fucking clown, and I wouldn't drink a beer with that asshole. But I respect the marketing, and like people should look at what's working out of that. There's something he's doing that is working.
Exactly. Yeah, he gets a cut of what you bring in. But a lot of players to me it's like, look,
that's fair.
You bring a big fucking steak to the table, bring a big fucking deer, and let's chop it up and we all eat. But these motherfuckers are turning up with a packet of peanuts and they want to eat steak. No, fuck off out of here, mate.
It's I get the dedication, but if no one wants to watch you and give you the money, why is the company going to pay more than you're bringing in?
It's a hard conversation for somebody to hear that they're not as much of a draw, or that they're not bringing the same thing to the table, even though they may be spending similar amounts of time doing the training. But if you're not drawing in the crowd, why the hell would you even show up there? There's nobody in the seats.
And especially in the UFC, man, these guys do such a great job at marketing. If you're unable to fucking get noticed, in the UFC, sorry, mate. Well, then you don't deserve to get paid. Like that's just the way it is, what I mean? Because they have so many cameras on you, so many interviews, so many days that the brand that sell the UFC brand beside your name, it means so much. Like, what I mean? I walked out of UFC on 3 consecutive losses, and I walked into a massive 6-figure contract. All because I was an ex-UFC fighter. If I came from anywhere else, wouldn't be able to demand that. But because I came from UFC, I could.
You deserve it.
The platform is given to you. What are you going to do with it once you get it? It might be for 1 fight or 3 fights or 10 years, but when you get that stage, look to exploit it for every dollar and every opportunity you can.
Okay. You only get it once.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's tough because fighters have a mentality of being indestructible, or they wouldn't have got this far in the first place. So they don't think about what if I get hurt, or what if I get cut, or what if this ends quickly. Every fighter wants to be and believes in their mind, I think, at some level, that they're going to be the champion, and I'll deal with that stuff once I get to that point. But unfortunately, there's 1 out of 1,000 maybe becomes the champion. More, yeah, if even so.
If even, I don't want to talk about the fake fucking champions. Like in boxing, there's fucking in the same weight class, there's 6 champions in the same weight class, all undefeated, never fought champion, and they're all world champions.
There's a lot of belts out there, man. I know it's confusing.
No, but that's even by definition, you cannot have more than 1 world champion. Champion means the best of, and when it's world champion, the best of the world. So how can you have 2 or 3 or 4? It's impossible.
It's true. That's the good thing about the UFC, especially. It gets a lot of bad rap for different things, but 9 out of 10 times, the 2 guys that are supposed to fight will eventually fight each other, and you'll get to see. It's not like, well, if this guy goes with this network and this manager and this promotion, then maybe 5 years from now they might fight. Like boxing, it's like they're probably gonna fight if they're both meant to be. It's a very good chance. So,
is it generally, if you want it bad enough and the other one does too, they make it happen?
Yeah, because the fans usually want that too. We could tell.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense. We're shaking up on an hour. I want to make sure that I take the time to thank you. Personally, I have a lot of respect for you, man. I learned a lot about you today. The business aspect is super cool to hear. You're a very intelligent man, and you seem to have life by the balls from either direction. You should be proud of that. Especially,
I'm not as stupid as I look.
No. I never try to judge anybody in those situations. In fact, I'll end on something. I had a friend that lost a front tooth because somebody threw something at him when we were in the Army. He threw a remote to him, and he come running in the room laughing, and he was covering his mouth. And he says, Clint just threw me the remote control and he knocked my front tooth out. And I'm like, bullshit. He pulls his hand down and it was gone. Sure as shit, he looked slow. He looked unintelligent. He looked poor. He looked a lot of things. And I did not like it. I didn't understand it at the time, but my brain was telling me he was somebody different. And he wasn't. He was the same man, same capabilities. So I appreciate you putting forward that you got to be authentic and take people for face value, for what they actually bring to the table. So thank you so much for sharing everything with our academics. I genuinely appreciate it.
You said it good, man. I really appreciate you coming out.
Thank you for having me, guys, and thank you for listening.
Remember, everybody, be cool and keep learning.
What's up, academics? This is Jay. I'm here to talk to you about Into the AM. This is a clothing and apparel company that I came across last year that has the absolute coolest designs. And the reason why I was attracted to it is because I grew up without a lot of money, like many others, and had to shop on that outlet rack with the irregular items. Things like the fly was over 4 inches to the left, or the right sleeve would be twice the size of the left. It looked like I was growing horizontally. Like, it's okay, honey, you'll grow into your left arm. So you really don't get a chance to express yourself the way that you want to. You go into life, you start putting on suits, you start putting on uniforms, and you realize you'd never had a chance to truly express yourself. Enter Into the AM, a team of artists and creators who share a common vision. They see clothing as a canvas to express what drives you. Since 2012, they've developed premium apparel that elevates self-expression and provides unparalleled comfort for wherever your passions take you. Into the AM's passion for change is the driving force behind their brand. They remain committed to creating products that inspire and promote self-expression by partnering with like-minded organizations focused on giving back to communities in need. Last year, they donated 1% of all revenue from their graphic tees collection to the Art of Elysium charity. The Art of Elysium is an artist organization built on the idea that through service, art becomes a catalyst for social change. For over 24 years, the Art of Elysium has paired volunteer artists with communities to support individuals in the midst of difficult emotional life changes. They currently offer 110 community programs per month, serving over 30,000 individuals per year. The only permanent thing in life is change. Supporting charities dedicated to helping those going through these changes, trials, and tribulations require a never-ending commitment. The onus is on us as creators to affect change through our true, authentic talents, and Into the AM is the model of how this is done. Their clothes are handcrafted with care. They have a team of skilled artisans that craft each garment with the highest quality fabrics and eco-friendly inks. Not to mention, these things don't shrink, they don't fade, and they fit as if they were designed supernaturally. I'm stopped every time I wear one of the graphic tees to find out where I got it. The colors attract attention from miles, and the art is nothing short of spectacular, with designs for everyone. One of my personal favorites, Twilight Maiden. Go take a look. Into the AM does all of this while putting their money where their mouth is. 30-day money-back guarantee, lightning fast shipping, and hassle-free returns. The deals are endless. Graphic tee bundles, discount promo codes. Get over there, check it out. I'm highlighting the tees, but I'd be remiss to not mention that if you want to walk around in the absolute most comfortable shorts, joggers, and basic tees, hit up Into the AM. I even wear the basics to the gym. Head on over to thetragedyacademy.com, go to our sponsors tab, and follow the affiliate link to the Into the AM store. Help support Into the AM and the Tragedy Academy by purchasing the absolute best apparel and the best designs ever. And remember, academics, be cool and keep learning.